So, can you ground him?
Sure, I can ground him, but first he has to ask me. It's part of the rule.
So why doesn't he ask you?
Because he's crazy. He has to be crazy to keep playing all the combat missions after all the close calls he's had. Sure, I can ground Orr, but first he has to ask me.
All he has to do to be grounded?
Yep. Let him ask me.
And then you'll ground him?
No, then I can't ground him.
So there's a catch?
Yep, catch 22. Anyone who wants to get a combat duty isn't really crazy.
Who dreams?
Joe, maybe you should go see Dr. Nika.
Why should I see Dr. Nika? I'm not sick.
But what about your nightmares?
I don't have nightmares.
I think he could do something about them.
There's nothing wrong with nightmares. Everyone has nightmares.
When I look up, I see people cashing in. I don't see heaven, or saints, or angels. I see people cashing in on every decent impulse and every human tragedy.
But you must not try and think of that, and you must try not and let it upset you.
Oh, it doesn't really. But what does upset me is that they think I'm a sucker. They think they're smart and the rest of us are dumb. And you know what, Danby? For the first time, the thought occurs to me that maybe they're right.
But you must try not to think of that too. You must only think of the welfare of your country and the dignity of every man.
Yeah.
Yusarian, I mean it. This is not World War I. You must never forget that we are at war with our aggressors, who would not let either of us live if they were to win.
I know that. Christ, Dansby. I earned that medal I got, no matter what their reasons were for giving it to me. I've flown 70 goddamn combat missions to save my country. I've been fighting to save my country all along, and now I'm going to fight a little to save myself. The country's not in danger anymore, but I am.
But the war's not over yet. The Germans are driving towards Antwerp.
The Germans will be beaten in a few months, and the Japanese a few months after that. If I were to give up my life now, it would not be for my country, it would be for Cathcart and Corn, so I'm turning my bomb sight in for the duration, and now I'm thinking only of me. Milo's planes were a familiar sight. They had freedom of passage everywhere, and one day Milo contracted with the American military authorities to bomb the German-held highway bridge at Orvieto, and with the German military authorities to defend the highway bridge at Orvieto with anti-aircraft fire against his own attack. His fee for attacking the bridge for America was the total cost of the operation plus 6%, and his fee from Germany for defending the bridge was the same cost plus 6, agreement augmented by a merit bonus of $1,000 for every American plane he shot down. The consummation of these deals represented an important victory for private enterprise, he pointed out, since the armies of both countries were socialized institutions. Once the contracts were signed, there seemed to be no point in using the resources of the syndicate to bomb and defend the bridge, inasmuch as both governments had ample men and material right there to do so, and were perfectly happy to contribute them. And in the end, Milo realized a fantastic profit from both halves of this project for doing nothing more than signing his name twice. The arrangements were fair to both sides, since Milo did have freedom of passage everywhere. His planes were able to steal over in a sneak attack without alerting the German anti-aircraft gunners, and since Milo knew about the attack, he was able to alert the German anti-aircraft gunners in sufficient time for them to begin firing accurately the moment the planes came into range. It was an ideal arrangement for everyone but the dead man in Yozarian's tent, who was killed over the target the day he arrived. The night was raw. A boy in a thin shirt and thin tattered trousers walked out of the darkness on bare feet. The boy had black hair and needed a haircut and shoes and socks. His sickly face was pale and sad. His feet made grisly soft, sucking sounds in the rain puddles on the wet pavements as he passed, and Yozarian was moved by such intense pity for his poverty that he wanted to smash his pale, sad, sickly face with his fist and knock him out of existence, because he brought to mind all the pale, sad, sickly children in Italy that same night who needed haircuts and needed shoes and socks. He made Yozarian think of cripples, and of cold and hungry men and women, and of all the dumb, passive, devout mothers with catatonic eyes, nursing infants outdoors that same night with chilled animal udders bared insensibly to that same raw rain. Cows. Almost on cue, a nursing mother padded past, holding an infant in black rags, and Yozarian wanted to smash her too, because she reminded him of the barefoot boy in the thin shirt and thin, tattered trousers, and of all the shivering, stupefying misery in a world that never yet had provided enough heat and food and justice for all but an ingenious and unscrupulous handful. He wondered how many people were destitute that same night, even in his own prosperous country. How many homes were shanties, how many husbands were drunk and wives socked, and how many children were bullied, abused, or abandoned. How many families hungered for food they could not afford to buy. How many hearts were broken. How many suicides would take place that same night. How many people would go insane. How many cockroaches and landlords would triumph. How many winners were losers, successes failures, rich men, poor men. How many wise guys were stupid. How many happy endings were unhappy endings. How many honest men were liars, brave men cowards, loyal men traitors. How many sainted men were corrupt. How many people in positions of trust had sold their souls to blackguards for petty cash. How many had never had souls. How many straight and narrow paths were crooked paths. How many best families were worst families, and how many good people were bad people.